Good morning and welcome to the coffee chat. Today we're going to talk about hormones, happy hormones, but we're also going to look at the flip side of that. And let me share my screen so we can get started on it. All right, so if you see on here, and can you see that okay? Are we in the way?
No, it's good.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we call this happy hormones because these hormones are responsible for motivation, trust, peace, and serenity. But on the flip side, and we'll talk about the deficiency of this, they can also cause, our laziness, our fear, loathing, self-loathing, and anxiety. So, of course, we want to talk about both of those things so we can stay in a happy medium. Just really not much announcements wise. First, our Spirit Week winners, hands down, both Karen and Jeannie dominated. So you were the midweek winners, and so you're the overall winners. I was going to do a spin the wheel, but it's Karen and Jeannie all around. So you both are going to win the grand prize or whatever we called it. So Karen, you're going to get a box of Beachbody bars, and Jeannie is going to get a 3-day refresh. So
awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. And so while you're unmuted, do you want the vegan? There's chocolate almond crunch. There's peanut butter crunch.
Chocolate almond crunch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cherry chocolate almond. Those are good.
Oh, cherry chocolate almond.
So I'll actually just message you or something, the 3 options so you can see them, and then you can pick one for sure. Yeah. All right, so let's meet your happy chemicals. So there's interchangeably how you can talk about our hormones. So our hormones are actually chemicals released in our body. So we talk about toxins and things like that on the atmosphere that are chemicals, but chemicals aren't necessarily a bad thing. We have this inner chemistry that happens. And so there's chemicals that are released that are in the, they're in the form of molecules that are our hormones. So know that. So we got the dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphin. This shows it being released from the brain, but actually some of these are actually released from the gut. But how our brain responds to it overall is kind of what we're talking about. Your feelings are unique, but the molecules that convey them are the same in everyone. Your life experience is unique. However, there's one thing all life experiences have in common. Every brain aims for its own survival. So we talk about this a lot, having our subconscious brain that is where our habits get stored, that kind of are in our operating system. And our brain is designed for us to survive. So when it sees change or when it sees fear, it's going to want to pull back, and we have to be aware of that so that we can override that. We have to let our brain know we're not in jeopardy. We're not, we don't need the survival mode here. We are up leveling. We are making some positive changes. And so a lot of the information I'm giving you today is from a source from Loretta Bruning. She did author a couple of books, which I haven't looked at, but sound interesting. So I will check those out. Maybe they might become in one of our readings. So the objective is really to, once you understand how your happy hormones function and are produced and released, then it's possible to build new circuits of happiness through new habits, which has been our overall objective all along, right? Building habits that help us achieve our goals, and in the process, helping us to become the person that we want to. And so it really starts at this molecular level. So again, we have these hormones being secreted in our gut, but in our brain, and those two talk to each other. through that circuitry. And, we have to get into action to create these new habits to build these new circuits. So getting your daily happiness chemicals. So we're going to talk about these 4. So the dopamine enables motivation, learning, and pleasure. It gives you the determination to accomplish your goals. Oxytocin is feelings of trust, helps motivate you to build relationships. It's known as the cuddle or love hormone, and I'm going to go a little deeper into each one of these. Serotonin, feelings of significance, respect, importance. It's a calm form of accepting yourself with other people, with people around you. So it helps us to feel more confident and comfortable when around others. And we're going to talk about how that other person can be yourself. Endorphins releases a brief euphoria to mask physical pain. So this is really interesting. It's a response to pain and stress that helps you alleviate anxiety and depression. So you can already see how there's flip sides to these, right? So let's look at dopamine. Dopamine is called the feel-good hormone. Let me get my notes here. It's been evolved to release energy to meet vital needs. So it's the hormone of success and reward. Our brain scans the environment for rewards. And when we find it, dopamine is released. And so dopamine has a dual role. It not only does it causes that sensation, that pleasurable sensation, which again, it could also trigger a sensation of fear. But when that sensation is triggered, then it releases energy, and that energy can be either obviously we can freeze, we can move forward, or we can retreat. So depending on what that sensation is. And then it stores that information. So an example, so it's called the I seek, I find mechanism that your body goes through for that hormone. And so an example would be when you're trying to solve a problem, that's the seek find activity. And then when we get to the answer, we experience a feeling of accomplishment. And you're internally, you're saying, I succeeded, and that feels good. And that's great. And I'm going to tell you ways to help you build up this positive sensations. But think about this too, when you're seeking chocolate or seeking that sweet treat after dinner, you get it, you've got the reward, you've released the dopamine, and then your brain stores that, right? And this is what happens, why we're always like seeking something sweet after dinner. So it stores that information, and then it's like, okay, we had dinner, now let's get that reward, right? So that's what's happening there. And you're interestingly enough, and I'm going to drop a resource of this guy who's a neuroscientist, and he talks a lot about it in really great terms. He explains it really well, and I'm going to put that link in below when I upload the coffee chat, because it's just really interesting to understand that our pathways for motivation and fear are on the same lines. For excitement and anxiety happen on the same lines, right? So it's a matter of what's triggering it and how we're reacting to it, that will create that circuitry or that habit on how you respond. Okay, so dopamine, it's that I seek, I find. So tell yourself as often as possible, I did it. So this is why we want to celebrate the small victories, whether you're doing a happy dance or, maybe you just internally or, to yourself, you're celebrating in your mind and saying, I did it. That's going to help reinforce that positive experience that your brain stores. So celebrate the small wins. And maybe you're thinking, well, I'm having a hard time doing that, getting those small wins. I feel like I'm always just kind of like bucking up against the wall. So what we want to do is take our dream or our goal and go from the dream of decision to action. So, nothing's going to change unless we go into action. When we have a dream and we just have these great thoughts, those are wonderful. But unless we actually execute on them, that's where it stays. And that's what your brain is thinking. It's just a dream. So you want to take the dream and put it into action by setting up realistic projects. And this is what we've done in the past with breaking down your schedule or identifying the one thing or the couple of things that you can do. So cutting things down into the smaller steps, that keeps you from feeling overwhelmed. Because when we look at something and we think, I can't do that, or I'm never going to do that, that's what you're storing in your brain. That's what then your brain says, oh, that's too big, we'll never do that. So we really do, as I've mentioned before, we have to train our brain. We have to, we talked about it last week, I think it was, or the week before, about, the law of attraction or manifesting, and just being able to open your brain up to see the possibility of what you want instead of closing it down. So we cut our goals down into smaller tasks. And then we go through and work on them, just focused on that 10 minutes of doing this. And when you're done with that 10 minutes, you celebrate that. I did it, and then move on. And don't worry about how far it's gotten you into achieving your goal, because then you kind of minimize that accomplishment. And then you go back to the overwhelm. So chunk it down, do it, celebrate it, and then just move on. If you feel like you're not getting that sensation, you might then just need to readjust your objectives. So readjusting goals makes it easier to reach them, and then to activate the dopamine through the reward of I did it. So that is dopamine. Endorphin. Okay, so endorphin is the one that is released when we experience physical pain. Endorphin masks pain for a short time, which helps us with survival. But some people go above and beyond. So physical pain isn't always, having our joint pain, having a headache. It can be where we push our bodies to that pain threshold. So some extreme athletes or extreme, if you're doing too much exercise, you're trying to push yourself too hard there. That's going above and beyond, and that is not going to trigger the endorphin in the same way. Now, the endorphin the endorphin won't allow us to harm ourselves just to escape the pain. So you only have so much of this that's going to release in response to pain. So, so we want to just focus on the positive things that we can do to help release this. So obviously hearing a good joke or watching funny memes, this is called the calm hormone. We just have to be aware of, getting addicted to this endorphin release, which is why a lot of us get addicted to our phone. We get on our phone, we see all these fun, inspiring quotes or funny videos. It makes us feel good. Then we put our phone down and we go back to reality. Don't feel so good there. Go back to the phone, to get that little endorphin hit. So laughing is great. If you can make yourself, laughing is just, it stimulates the endorphin simply by the shaking of our insides, the physical action that is caused when we laugh. So maybe you need to force yourself to laugh at some point, and this would be fun in a setting in public, just to laugh out loud. Crying also will help release endorphins. So, because it's just the physical strain our body has when we cry. It's obviously, again, like you've got excitement or anxiety. When we laugh and when we cry, it really creates a similar, physical response in our body. So both of those release endorphin. And, regrettably, a lot of adults will hold back the urge to cry. So that's why, getting it out, letting it out is good for you. Stretching also helps release endorphins. So that's why it's good at night. To do a little bit of stretching, you release those calm hormones, and that will help you sleep better. Oxytocin. This is the love hormone. And we have a positive feeling. When we have a positive feeling about someone, it's our oxytocin that causes that. So humans are mammals. And if mammals live in packs or herds, it's because numbers mean safety. Social trust, this is a quote from Loretta, social trust increases the prospects of survival and brings you well-being at the same time. So the brain prompts you to form social bonds by rewarding those bonds with that pleasurable emotion, which then turns into survival to help us to survive. Because we crave human connection. And that is really a survival mechanism. And so it's the oxytocin that helps us to, build those relationships, create trust and empathy. And to naturally boost this hormone, stay connected with people you trust. Like, I think it's a part of, our group. We get in here, we connect a lot with the women in the group that are working on similar goals. We see them doing it, and it creates this feeling of trust and connection, and we get a little oxytocin hit from that. To build new oxytocin circuits, same with the group, you can use surrogates. So if you have relationships with other people that doesn't bring you confidence, that doesn't feel like you have connection, that triggers negative emotion, it's kind of going to do the opposite effect of the oxytocin, and it's going to give you feelings of distrust, and we're going to talk a little bit more when you have deficiencies of these hormones, the feelings that you'll have. So you can use surrogates, just surrounding yourself with people that you do trust to help you build up that oxytocin, level. The small steps, so for people who find it difficult to trust or create bonds or trust, taking baby steps. So putting in place intermediate steps that build trust little by little, one of them being trustworthy. So we have to be, in order to trust, we have to be trustworthy ourselves, right? So the strategy is to feel the pleasure of trusting another person in you. So you are that other person that you are trusting. And so the strategy is really to help you reduce simply by keeping promises and enjoying the feelings of being a person you can trust. And that feeling that you have for yourself, you'll be able to share with others around you. So your body gets trained, your mind gets trained on that feeling of trust and what you're looking for. But it has to start with us, right? It starts within. Getting a massage will help release oxytocin. Oxytocin. It's because it's by physical touch, oxytocin is secreted. So they talk about, when you hug someone, it releases oxytocin. But I was reading here, it's when you hug your loved one. So the science behind it is not just hugging anyone, although it's better than nothing, right? But hugging your loved ones, because you have that bond, you already have that trust, will give you the biggest boost of oxytocin. I was doing that with my son for a little while. I was making him hug me for, I think it was 21 seconds before, to allow that release. And so hug someone, get a massage, and then trusting yourself. All right, let's go to serotonin, the mood lifting neurotransmitter. Super important for sleep, for memory, digestion, and learning. We get this when we exercise. It's released. And it's also it's called the willpower hormone, but it's also has to do with respect and dominance. So thinking about it in the more crude way of like with the mammal world and humans being mammals, that we develop a sense of pride, and that is helping you to build new serotonin circuits. So if we're self-loathing, if we're feeling not good enough, we're missing out on some of these neurotransmitters. So we have to be able to, we're doing the dopamine, so we're cutting down our chores, we're celebrating our small wins, we're connecting with others that we love, we're exercising, and we have to reinforce that, the feeling of pride, and pride in a sense of not ego, right? It's pride without, look at me, or I told you so. So and beware of, if you're sharing with others about your accomplishments, and they don't share that same enthusiasm, it can be disappointing. So just thinking, when I was reading those, I was thinking about, especially couples, and one is trying to do, better their life, and they're eating healthy, and they're exercising, and their personal development and stuff, and the significant other isn't on board with it, and this happens with friendships too. This happens in our social circles, and our friends or our significant other is like, well, kind of demeaning or not supportive. And it's really that when you're rising up and others are insecure about it, they will pull you down. So we want to be the person that helps others rise up without that ego involved, without, I told you so, or look at me. And when you do that, so you're helping others without an expectation of getting anything from that, it helps you release that serotonin and build that sense of pride. So it's making peace with social status too, because the serotonin has to do with your respect and your dominance in the hierarchy of survival. We do have to make peace with social dominance. So if we're over social status, if we're overly dominant, then we have to be able to. So we have to. That's going to bring along more cortisol, right? That's going to bring along more stress. So what we do, making peace with our social status, is just being at peace with where you are in that hierarchy. If you are lower, to understand and be grateful for the benefits you have in the position that you're in. So you have to look the pros and cons of where you're at right now. What are the pros? Your gratitude, things that being at the level that you're at are advantageous for you, versus if you were at this level, because that at this level then at a higher level makes it where you have more responsibility or more consequences. So again, just being at peace with where you're at. And then the cons of it, is, do I want to stay here? What do I want to change? What would I rather have if there's cons, right? And so then that can bring you back around to your dopamine, to your goal setting, to and all these hormones build on, kind of help each other. Just appreciating the positive influence you have on others. Our brain wants that. It wants us we're designed to make an impact in the world, and our brain will seek that. And some people, if they're not directed right, or they are overcome with overwhelm and self-loathing and not enough, and just don't have clear-cut baby directions to go forward, their impact on the world is going to be negative. And it's really, again, that survival. So things to do, let go. Like when our brain feels good when it's dominant. Our brain feels good when it's in control, but that can come around and bite us. So we have to practice the art of letting go. A suggestion is pick a day where you cannot look at the clock. Hide your watch, turn off your alerts, and just wake up when you wake up, eat when you want to eat, do whatever you want to do without putting the pressure of, I need to be doing this, or it's time to do that. And just letting go of all control. Not like go binge fast, right? But of having to be so structured and so routine. That just allows your body to, that mood lifting neurotransmitter to be released. So, so when you are deficient in these hormones, there's certain things that you will feel. So in dopamine, there's going to be procrastination, low self-esteem, lack of motivation, feelings of anxiousness, hopelessness. I think with all of these, you'll have mood swings. That's just it, because these are mood, hormones. Oxytocin, if you're deficient, you have feelings of loneliness, you'll be more stressed, you'll lack motivation, disconnect with your relationships, low energy, fatigue. Serotonin, your self-esteem is low, you become overly sensitive, you have anxiety, maybe some panic attacks, those mood swings, you don't sleep well, more obsessive compulsive with your thoughts and your actions. And then endorphins, deficient in here, you'll experience anxiety, depression, mood swings. A lot of antidepressants have endorphin in it to counteract this. You can have aches and pains, insomnia, compulsive or impulsive behaviors, because we're trying to get that release, right? So although we titled this happy hormones, we definitely, awareness is key, is critical. If you're feeling any of these things, it's your circuitry, it's that chemical imbalance that's happening within your body. So I might do a little paper and just like how to trigger, the release of these hormones, and then also maybe some foods that you can eat that help with this, just so that if you are feeling these feelings. So we've got the pleasurable emotions, but obviously these are the cousin side effect opposites. If you're feeling these, what can I do? Which I'll show you in a second, but also there's the hormone cousins of melatonin and cortisol that get released also in relation to these happy hormones or feel-good hormones. And obviously melatonin helps us sleep better. And then cortisol, that'll be released when we're in distress. So if you're, I told you where the pathways are the same, that motivation and fear are on the same pathways. Anxiety and excitement are on the same pathways. So your hormones can cause happiness or distress, pleasant or unpleasant. So our brain releases cortisol when something threatens us. Cortisol sends emergency information to the brain without even going through the thought process. And it's cortisol, let's see, whether those threats are perceived or real, right? Cortisol does its job by motivating us to do everything possible to get rid of that unpleasant sensation. Oh, and what's interesting is, because we're talking about, like, as a mammal, other non-human mammals have these same things. Like when cortisol is released in them, this alarm system is alerted in them. They don't feel cowardly for fleeing. Like they have a perceived threat and they run from it, they retreat, whatever they need to do, or freeze, depending on what their survival mechanism is. But they just do it. When the threat's gone, they move on. They don't criticize themselves for making wrong decisions. They don't judge others for doing it. They simply go back to what they were doing. And so we can really learn from, when we take that sort of side effect emotion out of it, and stop beating ourselves up for those things. All right, so how to increase your happiness levels. In dopamine, you can meditate. Oh, my dinger just went off because let me just tell you real quick. I'm monitoring Ken. So Deb is not on the call today because Ken is actually in the middle of his World Championship triathlon. So it just signaled that he's starting the bike portion. So very cool. We'll put a little thing out there in our group. Okay, so how to increase your happiness levels. And dopamine, it's to meditate, doing your daily to-do list, like we said, 10 minutes, celebrate your wins, eating foods rich in L-tyrosine, which I'll put some information on that. Obviously, exercising, we know, helps us stay happy. Do something that you enjoy, writing, music, walking, being outdoors. Oxytocin, physical touch, like we talked about, socializing, massage, listening to music, exercise again, meditate. You'll see a common denominator in all these. Serotonin, exercising, a cold shower. It's hard to do. Getting sunlight. So you know how you feel happy when you're out in the sun. A massage too will help with this, with that touch. Endorphins, laughter, or cry if you need to. You know, talking is always good. That just gives us a sense of well-being. So if you do need to cry, I would encourage you to, you know, do a little talk therapy with someone. Eating dark chocolate, that's always good for endorphins. Again, though, we want to be careful on how we're doing the seek and reward system and training our brain. Exercise and stretching, massage, and meditation. So if you aren't doing these things, you need to do more of these things. Definitely add those into your daily routine. So that's what I had to say about that. So, you know, we have the choice to regulate our happiness just by the actions that we're taking and helping build that new circuitry. So if you've heard about brain plasticity, that's part of that too. Like you can retrain your brain. It's not like you've learned everything, you're losing brain cells, you're never going to be able to make those changes. So it's just a matter of identifying where you might be deficient, the feelings that you're having, those recurring things, your thoughts about them, and then the action you're taking on them, and helping you to create new habits. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Got any?
I got thoughts, but I always feel so bad because usually my thoughts aren't very positive. Which is when I look at all those negative feelings there, I think, oh my God, I have all of those. I need more of all of those. And then, but then when we look at, I'm doing things in all those categories. So I don't know. I obviously need to do more of those things. Plus, you know, change my attitude about I need to do that, letting go of all that stuff.
Right. Yes. I mean, and we all do that at some, you know, to some extent. All of our, like the original quote, you know, our circumstances can be different. Our lives are unique. But the chemical reactions that's happening are all the same. And so, like you said, it's that attitude. You got to let go and then celebrate what you're doing right versus focusing on what is not going right. And that may help like intensify the good feelings for you. Like it's hard when you have physical pain and you're stuck in a position where you feel like you have no choices, you know, and at some, you know, partially you may not, but you have to look for that pros and cons. So gratitude for sure.
I was thinking about that last night, that like all this COVID stuff and all the stuff that's going on at my workplace. But then I was thinking like, look at this, like, you know, this is coming up on 2 years. Like this is our life. You know, you keep waiting for it to be over, but in the meantime, no, 2 years of your life has gone by. Like, I don't know, one has to somehow get to a place of acceptance in this stuff that's going on now. Because
yeah. So I listened to this other, because I try to listen to like motivation stuff to get my brain right and my thought process right. So one was talking about our brain, our ego is always looking to the future. It wants to, where are we going? What are we doing? And it never looks at the now and just appreciates that and puts that into the full feeling that we could have about what's right here, right now. Because then we get to that future and our ego says, wait, that's the now. It's never looking at the now. Like the future becomes the now, and your brain, your ego, is not ever gonna appreciate what you have right here, right now, because it's always looking to the future. So I'm going to drop that one in the comments too. That was really good.
It's because, and especially for like me, it's always wanting more. I want more. I want more person.
Yeah.
The addict in me always wants more.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger, better, more. That's what I tell my husband.
Just want more. I want more. Give it more. My brain always wants more.
Mm-hmm.
Give it more.
Yeah.
And I don't care what it is. So, and then, I'm thinking, I thank God for my psychiatrist, who is the chemist, who can adjust all of those drugs, and just did a switch. And now I want to go look and see what drugs she switched and look and see what she was tweaking, because I want to go see what she tweaked.
That would be interesting. Have that conversation with her.
I want to go look and see what she tweaked, because I was on the same drugs for I've been on antidepressants since I was a teenager, and I just have to and my daughter's bipolar and I'm bipolar, and thank God, because we're just a mess. But my brain's a chemical mess. My body's a chemical mess. And it just is. And I finally switched drugs because they weren't working anymore. And it'll be interesting. I want to just go look and see, what did she switch in my brain? Because it wasn't working anymore. And I think a lot of it is because of what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was just tanking.
There's such a high rate of depression, anxiety right now, all over the world, but definitely Canada, the US have high numbers.
But with this and now with this little thing you just did, I'm going to go look and see, what did she do? I wrote down some of the things. I was like, I want to go look and see, what are these things that she played with?
Yeah. And so then look too, and maybe I'll put the graphics, the couple of graphics in the group too, because, or I'll email them out actually, so you can really get a good look at them. But what can you do to increase that happiness for those things that she increased, and do more of those, or do those things, add those things in. So,
and it would be really interesting to see what to go on without, what to do to stimulate those things. Like you were saying, what are the foods to eat? And that was part of, in our months before, what foods you eat to do that, what to do to increase those things. And we've already been there, but
yeah, I made a note to do that too. Because when I was doing some, and I was going to add to my slide, but I was already getting 20 slides. I'm like,
yeah.
So, but I was looking, and there's different foods that stimulate like serotonin and dopamine, those. So I'll look at those and get.
I remember Deb was talking about that stuff. So
yeah. And then also the thought process. So like retraining your brain and rebuilding circuits for this chemical release in how you're perceiving things and thinking about things is important too, because that's going to be this involuntary response that happens initially. So it's something that we want to just be aware of. And when we become aware of things that are, we're reacting negatively, on how we can then flip that and flip it in our head. So that then that becomes the new normal, the new involuntary response, which is a habit. Like we just habitually do things without even thinking about them, because we trained ourselves to do that. We trained our brain when this happens, so yeah, it's all simple and very complex at the same time. Yes. Okay, so I am ready. I can handle anything life throws at me. I'm gonna tell myself that today. All right, ladies, I will put this out in the group a little bit later this morning, and I'll throw up some of those other resources I mentioned. I'll email out a couple of graphics so that you have them. And if you have any questions or you have any insights, definitely share in the group with us, because we're all on this life train together. Thank you very much for being on the call this morning. I'm going to go root Ken on, and I'll get this up in the group here soon. All right. Bye. Thanks, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.